Okay, so today I want to talk about two things. One is, of course, Artemis mission is gonna be hopefully today, and it is not gonna be pushed back again. Please, please don't push it back again. But whatever. Nothing I can do about that one. If it gets pushed back, what can do. But it is, I'm excited for it. Hopefully it does work well. I Here's the thing. The Artemis 1 rocket has been tested and retested and refueled and refueled again many, many times. Rockets, especially this rocket in particular, is not designed to do that. It's a disposable rocket, except for the engines mainly. Um, there is a limit to how many times you can try to launch this thing before it sort of just has too many problems and you have to go to the next one. And that is one thing to keep into consideration, that if they don't launch this time, they're gonna be really close to the limit, to the risk being too high to try to use this rocket again. It might be just better to try to just go for Artemis 2 or use the second rocket for Artemis 1. But first of all, that's not even built yet, so it is gonna take a while. Or, just skip Artemis 1 entirely and go to Artemis 2. But that doesn't really work with the scheduled missions, like the planned missions that they had. They were already really tight, because there's only gonna be 5 rockets that they're gonna build for the foreseeable future, maybe even less, to be completely honest. But you know, whatever. Let's hope that it does launch this time. It is gonna be, by the way, in just a couple of hours, I think. I don't know how many, but the launch window, it's at 1 a.m. It's 1 a.m. in Florida, so probably here it's gonna be like 2. I'm not gonna wait for that. I'm just gonna go to sleep. So tomorrow I'll see. I made a bet, right? On I uploaded a photo of what was gonna happen first. An engine change on the shop that I work, or Artemis launching. It wasn't even close, because the engine was already paid for by the customer. So pretty much it took like a week, and the customer took the car. I mean, the engine mount took like 2 days, right? But the customer had already paid for it, so we tested the thing, and then the customer came like in a week, and then he took the car. So yeah, it wasn't even close. Artemis 1, it took like a month. Um, and the second thing that I wanted to talk about, this is exciting for me because it's something I learned, and it is actually quite interesting. It is so open. It opens my mind so much, because it is such a different way of looking at a very complex problem, that I thought it was like only one way to learn it on the past. Um, for the background, for people that wanna actually learn this and wanna go through it the same way, um, for the background, signal processing, it's a very extensive field. It covers everything from like electronics to like computation to programming to mathematics to like physics even. It's a very complex and extensive field. And how I approach this at the beginning is, okay, I am gonna try to learn the mathematics, and that's it. And really fast, I encountered problems because one of the biggest things with that is that most of the stuff out there that tries to teach you signal processing and manipulation of signals today mostly starts off with like today's mathematics, and well, not today's mathematics, but modern mathematics, where you have to know to integrate and to make, I don't know how you say it in English, diferenciar, which is diferencial is solving differential equations on the, like, they start with that. There's no lower barrier, so I forgot that word too, huh? There's not a low entry barrier or barrier, however you pronounce that word. It is, to start off with, a very highly complex thing to learn. It is not intuitive at all. And I immediately got stuck because it is just very complex. You have to devote a lot of time to learn it. So I got stuck, and that was probably like 2 years ago. I just literally got stuck at solving differential equations that were, so how you call them in English is going to be two variable differential equations. I got stuck there. I learned to solve them, but I just learned to solve them by making one variable. By making one variable a set amount, solving the equation, and then looking how the result of the equation changes at changing the variable that first you set to a non-variable. That really is just very basic stuff. It's basically just solving a regular differential equation, and then adding one more step into it. I got stuck in that. I also got stuck in transforms. Transforms are tools that were made by old mathematics to solve problems that they needed to solve at that time. One of the things that I'm gonna cover today is, for example, the Fourier transform or Fourier transform. I don't know how you pronounce that name. Other examples are the W and Z transform. There's the Laplace transform. There's the H. I forgot the name. Let me check, because I don't want to get it right. So let me check. Let me check what's the name of that transform. Heaviside. Well, it's not a transform, but it's called Heaviside function. But it is a transform. It just changes the domain of a function, if I remember correctly, or some shit like that. I don't remember exactly, but you get the point. There's many, tools that have been made for you to solve certain type or specific problems or differential equations. That's nothing new. Either way, I got stuck on that side with digital signals, because immediately when you try to learn like how a satellite or how GPS or Wi-Fi works, right? You try to learn how Wi-Fi works, the mathematics of how Wi-Fi works. Today, you're not gonna make it, man. It's just impossible. It's just so complex, and so many things have been added on top of each other for so many years that is just impossible. Like, you can't. You have to start somewhere else. It's just too complex. And that's where I realized, I would say like 2 years ago, maybe 1.5. I'm not sure exactly how many now. I feel old. Whatever. But I learned something really cool. And this comes from a book that, this is chapter 6 of the book. The book is called I don't have the cover because I print books from the internet. Don't judge. So you're gonna have to read it from there. It says on the top. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see, but it's The Scientist and Engineer's Guide to Digital Signal Processing. And one of the amazing things about this book is that it's kind of old. The book really feels from like the. So I think this. I don't know. Okay, I'm guessing here, but I guess it was, published probably in like the 2000s. So that was 20 years ago, and obviously that's published. The stuff that the dude learned and put on the book, obviously it's older than that. What's on the book really feels like 1990s, to be honest. And you can argue most of it doesn't apply today. But the good thing about this book is that it doesn't deal. There's no Wi-Fi, okay? There's no Bluetooth. There's no satellite interconnectivity stuff being dealt with here. It really starts with the very basics, which is amazing because it's so easy to understand now. And the dude, maybe I should read the author's name so that I don't call him the dude. Okay, let me, yeah. I'm gonna be a little bit more respectful and actually look up his name. I'm not just gonna call him the dude. Beginners Guide to Digital Signal Processing. Beginner to DSP. Oh my god. Seriously, Google sucks. Man, this sucks. I cannot see. Second edition. Be sure to visit Stephen W. Smith. That's the name. He's from California Technical, San Diego, California. Actually, it says here when it was published. It was published 1997, 1999. So yeah, all of the information is really old. Whatever. I was talking about all of the way that he explains things and the programs that he writes, because he teaches you how to program the things, the signals and the signal processing on MATLAB, and an old version of MATLAB. I didn't even bother with that because like it makes literally no sense at all. The characters that he uses on this, I don't think they exist anymore on modern programs. Like you don't use the exact calling of the functions on that program today. They're different. So whatever, I didn't even bother. I'm not sure. Maybe you do still do it that way. But he starts with the very basics, and it's very good. And one thing that opened my mind so much is that the chapter is called convolution, right? Convolution really just means to add, based on what the chapter talks about, and it means to add two signals together, but not two signals together on like a completely linear fashion with no thinking about it. What it talks about is making a linear system out of two functions. So you have signal 1 and signal 2, and you multiply them, but you multiply them in a very specific way, and that results on signal 3. And signal 3 can have all of the information needed to make signal 2 and signal 1, or you can give it any other purpose. But on the way it is presented here, it is very simple and it's awesome. Like it really just, I mean, it's very, compared to like trying to learn how to use the Fourier transform, this is just so much better. And obviously the Fourier transform is a very important thing, right? You have to learn it eventually, but starting with this is just so much better because you don't have to go so abstract. Like, even though this is simpler, it does have real world applications. Like, for example, here gives an example of a filter. This is a low pass filter and this is a high pass filter. And if you can see here, is it multiplies this with this. So this is called an impulse response. So this is a very specific way that you're going to multiply every dot on this function by. Put it simply, you multiply one of these dots by this impulse response, and you get basically, instead of this, you're going to get a signal that's like this. But then you're going to grab the second point and just this, move it one square to the left, right, whatever. And you're going to do this one left, put this, one left, put this, for all of the dots on the signal here. And the end result, it's amazing because it really just makes a filter. You have the increasing, you basically erase the sinusoidal form of the, or the waveform of the signal, and you end up with like the actual slope of the signal. So it's a filter. On the bottom one, it's the other way around. It has a waveform but with a slope, and then you apply this impulse response, which is just an inverted waveform that's very small, and that eliminates almost all of the slope and just leaves you the waveform. So it has real world uses, and it is not a complex thing. It's just a simple multiplication thing. You can invert signals like this, and here it details exactly what I mean about it being extremely simple. So this is a smaller one, and this is the signal, right? The original. This is the original signal, and this is the impulse response. And so if you see carefully how this impulse response is shaped, basically what you do is you grab every single point from the first function And you're gonna put that impulse response on the function. Obviously, it's a multiplication in this case. So if it's close to 0, it's going to be 0. If it's close to 1, it's going to be like this. If it's negative, it's going to be inverted. See? This is the impulse response. And here it is, but it's inverted. And it is done for every single dot on the original signal. And then you add them up. You average it out. And the end signal is what is the result. And I'm so happy to have learned about this, because just by itself is very useful, right? It opened my mind so much to how actual signal multiplication and interactions work, but it applies too to the Fourier transform, which is one of the parts where I got stuck. Fourier transforms conceptually are very easy to understand. It's you grab a signal, okay, and then you break it down to cosines and sine waves. That's how you say it? Cosine waves and sine waves that are the same amplitude but different frequency. And if you add this up, all of these component signals, you add them up, you end up with the signal that you were trying to do. Now, conceptually, it's not that hard to understand. Okay, every signal can be made up of just having these sine waves at different frequencies and add them up. That, kind of makes sense. Like, for example, AC and DC power conversion from like electricity. But the mathematics are not easy at all. Like, they're so complex and so hard to understand, and even harder to try to apply without computers to an actual signal. Like, if you try to grab an actual signal and get the transforms for like not even like many frequencies, but like 2 or 3 frequencies, you're gonna spend a day. And for me, success rate, I would say probably 0. There's no chance I'm gonna get it right. And part of the problem came from conceptually you cannot understand on your brain. You can try to use the formulas and you can try to use the tools the way they were designed to, right? You can try to do something right without actually understanding completely what you're doing. Like, you're just trying to do everything as they taught you and as it is instructed. But you don't have really a true understanding on your brain of how everything is interacting with everything else. And that's what this book gave me. It broke down signal processing and certain types of signal decomposition to a way that I can understand, and that's why it's so cool. I'm so happy. For example, let me give you another example with the, but it's not on this chapter. Where is it? It talks about signal decomposition, but in a symmetrical way. And it really looks like a failed attempt at a Fourier transform. It's not one, okay? It's just a decomposition. It's just a symmetrical decomposition. But you can kind of get the idea of how and why the Fourier transform works, because the Fourier transform also has symmetry. The Fourier transform has circular symmetry. For every given wave that you have, the Fourier transform, the way it works is as a circle. Like, you go around the signal and produces the same thing. It's symmetrical. And here it's another example. This is called even odd decomposition. This is the original signal. And this is how it's decomposed. And if you see here, this is symmetrical. If you cut it on the x-axis, this y-axis, x-axis, y-axis, if you draw a line here, it's mirror upwards and it is reflected that way. So it is completely symmetrical. And this signal added with this signal produces the original one. And that is one of the ideas of the Fourier transform. You have the same amplitude. For any given, so when you do the Fourier transform, you grab a signal and decompose it to an infinite number of frequencies, but the idea is to get which frequencies the signals is composed of. The cool thing about it is that any given frequency, let's say 200 hertz, for the frequency of, not 200 hertz, is that how you say it? 200 hertz? Whatever. But let's say that the frequency of the given frequency that you have is, just a cosine or sine wave. It's just a symmetrical wave thing. It doesn't change. It's exactly the same all along. And you just have to grab another signal, which may be just a little bit of a different frequency, or you can actually grab the inverted of this wave, which is the cosine or sine, and cancel it out. And that's how the Fourier transform works. And this just gives you a very good low-level understanding of how exactly you can cancel out and add up and decompose signals on a very brain easy way. Like it's very intuitive, and that's really cool. Took me 2 years to find the book, but I'm happy. It's just it is very good. If you wanna know the name again, it's I forgot. The Scientist and Engineer's Guide to Digital Signal Processing by James W. Smith, I think it was. Computer. I downloaded the second edition. Probably, this was on 1999. So probably there's newer versions if you want to get the newer book. The author is Stephen W. Smith. And yeah, it is very good. I never thought, to be honest, that I would be recommending books. But, so far I've recommended 2 books. The first one is Ignition, which is really good. It's very funny, especially. You learn a little bit. Well, maybe you do learn some things. Like the dude, it's actually really smart. But it is quite fun. It is a fun read. This one is not exactly a fun read. Like it is a textbook at the end of the day. But it just dumbs down a lot of complex modern things because it's just so old. And that's why it's very good. It is very good in that sense. And that's I think that's all I wanted to talk about, really. Nothing else.